Oh, greetings everybody. Here is a question that was sent to me from quiz 1 by Ask My Instructor. And it says that we have this function f of x, and that's the function that's in the graph. Some of the points are labeled, like I see negative 3, 5, 0, 5, 3, 5, and this line segment, that's the function. And with that, I want to graph this other function g of x, which is f of 1/2 x. Okay, this is an example of a transformation. The graph of g of x, which we will select over here, is a modification, a transformation of the graph of f of x, which we see here. The way it's transformed is entirely based on that number right there, 1/2. Okay, now I'm going to go to my whiteboard and I'll say that, okay, well, here's the scenario for that kind of transformation. There are many other kinds of transformations, but the one we have here is like this. F of x is some original function or graph, and if g of x is f of k times x, where k is some constant fixed number, that's what we have over here. G of x is f of 1/2 times x, okay? Then here's how we modify the original graph. We multiply all the x coordinates by 1 over k, and we leave the y coordinates alone. All right, well, let me show you how that would work in this case. If I'm going to transform this graph in the way described over here, then I can point out to you that the fact that that 1/2 is right there means we're going to multiply the x coordinates by the reciprocal of that. You know, if that number is k, we're going to multiply the x coordinates by 1 over k. So I guess it'd be like 1 over 1/2, but that's just 2. 1 divided by 1/2 is just 2. 1 over k is 2 this time, okay? So the way that we find this graph as a transformation of this one is to multiply all the x coordinates by 2, okay? So I'm going to take these points that were given to me and I'll multiply all the x coordinates by 2. It won't change the shape of the graph. It will just change the points by this. Okay, so let's say here's our new points. All right, our new points are, well, this one, if I multiply the x coordinate by 2 and I leave the y coordinates alone, then I'll get negative 6 and 5. And if I take that one, 0 and 5, and I multiply the x coordinate by 2, I'll get, well, 0 times 2 is still 0, so it's not going to move that one. I'll get 0 and 5. And with this one, 3 and 5, if I multiply the x coordinate by 2, I leave the y coordinate alone. I'll get 6 and 5. So imagine if you had this same shape, but with these points on it. This point's going to be further out that way because it's going to be at 6. And this point's going to be further out that way because it's going to be at negative 6. And that point in the middle is not going to move. It's just going to stretch the graph horizontally. So, okay, there are my points. Let me just go to select which one of these graphs has those points. The person who sent this to me selected this one. Let's see. I'll zoom in a little bit. What's the scale? You see how that's 10, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're all counting by 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4. That point's at 4, and then this point's at negative 4. That's not what we want, though. Like our new points are at negative 6, 0, and 6, with the y coordinates being 5. So that's why this one right here is not right, okay? Just, it looks like it might be A. I mean, I'll have to look closely at it. So no, that goes over to 8. That goes too far. See how that point right there, if I count, that's over at 8. So it's not that one. Maybe this one. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the one right here. If I count, I can see that point is at 6 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This point's at 0 and 5. And that point's at negative 6 and 5. That's the one that I want. This is the right choice, okay? All right, so I got it. It's that one, right? All I had to do was figure out that This was the transformations instructions. Multiply the x-coordinates of the graph given by 2. I got my new points, and I had to look somewhat closely at the graphs given to figure out which one had those points. But, I found it to be this one, and I can check my answer, and it's right. Okay, so that's an example of one particular transformation and how you might go through the process of identifying the correct graph on MyMathLab. Will certainly help to zoom in and see it a little bit closer. It's hard to read the graphs the way they are, but in the end, that's all you have to do.